Hey everybody, thanks for joining me. My name is Brian Morrison. I've been coming to you live pretty much every week for since the beginning of 2019, building out a web application using Node.js and VueJS. I'm a software engineer based out of Chicago, Illinois, and I'm just trying to kind of spread the knowledge and help some other developers grow. Before we get started, I wanted to announce a couple of quick updates. The first thing is I have a Patreon now, so if you are interested in supporting the work that I do, you can go ahead and go to my Patreon and become a patron. Greatly appreciated. You can read about all the different levels there. Those are kind of, I just set it up today, so they might be tweaked out a little bit. But go check it out. If you go on if you're on Twitch down in my panels down below, you could see there's a panel there to support me. Just go check it out. Let me know if you have any comments or feedback. The other thing, as I announced, and I think it was Monday earlier this week, I will be launching a developer course, basically, that I'll be teaching for 4 weeks. I'll cycle it for 4 weeks, teaching a different topic every 4 weeks. And the first one's going to be community driven. The second one, I have some ideas of other things I want to do, but the voting on that is also kind of tied into the different patron levels. So that'd be going to be pretty cool. Check it out. As far as that goes, I'm going to hop over to my computer screen. But we have, hold on, if I can find the right scene here. This was the tweet that I put out, and Node.js APIs has won. So by a fair margin, there were a couple people, and 14 people voted. I was hoping to get a little more people, get some input on that, but that's not bad. That's not bad. I'll take it. So starting on Monday, I'm going to start teaching people how to build APIs in Node.js. I got to build a curriculum out. I'm going to have some slide decks. We're going to have some sample code. It's going to be really cool. 4 weeks, we're going to go through some different topics. I'm going to start off with just how to create and set up a basic API. We're going to go into some structure of the code, how I prefer to structure out my projects in Node. We're going to do some validation. We're going to write to databases. We might even get into calling some external APIs through the API so you can integrate with some other, what other services you might want to. That's kind of what I'm doing in my project today. So I guess with that, I'm going to kind of hop back into the project we've been working on so far, which is my app that I'm building, I guess if you call it. It's a web app called NVRE. It is going to be a way to streamline the process of shipping anything around the US to start off with, possibly the world eventually. That would be pretty cool, I think. So hopping back over to the code, this is where we left off before. We were running into an error when I finished setting up the integration with Square, because that's going to be the first integration that I'm building, and it connects into Square's API, imports the customers. Potentially we'll get into importing the actual orders themselves if Square has that endpoint. I was reading some of their documentation, and it doesn't seem like they do, but we might get there. We'll see what happens. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pull up the UI for what we've been working on so I could show you what we got. Code back up there in the background. It's pretty basic. There's not a whole lot going on here yet, but if I can get the errors all solved today, we're going to try and build the forms that is going to be used for importing the customers themselves. I think I'm pretty close. I'm like 95% there, but I'm still running into some issues. So as I've discussed in my last stream, the way the flow goes is I have a client ID that is sent along with an HTTP GET request to Square's API, and that requests a code back, an authorization code. I have to pass that up to my API, which contains the secret keys that my API uses to communicate with theirs. And along with that code, it creates a JSON Web Token that can be used for basically to authenticate my API as the user so we can import customers. So I'm going to click this auth to Square. You're going to see it's going to bring up this guy here. This is where I'm going to enter in my email address and password, so I don't like doing that on screen, so we're going to transition away here for just a sec while I grab my credentials. Always got to be worried about security when building anything. Hey Alice, thanks. Really appreciate it. Hope everything's going well on your end. Let's see here. Square. Drawing a blank. Sitting there staring at my screen and I couldn't think of what I was trying to do. All right, so let's get back in here. And I'm going to go ahead and click sign in. And it doesn't like me. Oh, spelled my email address wrong. Derp. So we're going to go ahead and sign in. You can see the code is put up there in the URL. I don't want to save this, but this is the error we were getting before. I don't know if I can really make this any bigger. I can make the web page bigger. I can't make the error any bigger. We're getting a problem with an internal server error. Inside of my API, let's see, which is not shown on screen, it says cannot read property external tokens of undefined. So something in my API is undefined. And the file that we had built out last week in this, let's see here, what file does it say where we want? Square routes post. So services, square service, routes, in this post. So something here it's not liking. Where basically what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to tweak out some of this code and do a bunch of console logs to find out exactly what it doesn't like. Okay, so underneath, let's go to the Square service, which is this guy here, and let's find out where we have this external tokens defined. Okay, so here's external tokens. So it looks like based on the query that's being sent through, this is my assumption at this point, there are no users that are actually being returned. So I'm going to first console.log the query so we can see if the user ID is being passed through properly. And I'm also going to console log the users and see if I'm actually getting any back. I'm going to imagine I'm not, since my selector here where I put the 0 in for the array element, I'm trying to get the first element in the array and it doesn't seem to be coming back, but it could be returning a single object, in which case it's not going to show a number of them, it's just going to show just that one. So let's go ahead and off the square again. It shouldn't ask me to log in because I'm doing this already. Slide it to its loading on the back end. And oh, I see. So it's not that it hadn't returned everything. The query is correct. I don't think I'm going to show anything incorrect out here. So let's go ahead and bring this up. Hold on one second. All right, I'm going to expand out my terminal so you can see it. Okay, so it said can't read external tokens of undefined. That's what it's showing off on the end here of the screen. Here's the ID. Here's my user ID that's being passed through. That's fine. But right here, you can see we have a promise object that's pending. Now, in asynchronous code, in asynchronous JavaScript, promises kind of, even in async await setups that have been implemented in ES7, they're still technically just promises behind the scenes. So what we have to do, and what I've missed last time, and I will openly admit that as these streams go on, I tend to get tired and I miss things, is all I need to do is add an await in here. And this is basically telling the code, because this function is an async function, it just kind of goes through the code and doesn't really wait for anything to return. Like synchronous code always kind of takes it line by line. It'll execute line, in this case, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, etc. These are the lines that correspond right here. But in asynchronous code, it doesn't really, in synchronous code, if it hits a long-running operation, the process kind of just stalls. I've had this experience early on when I used to build desktop applications in C# and WPF. If I had to execute a query that would hit a database or a web service and it wasn't coded properly, it would kind of just sit there and the user interface would just kind of stop and not do anything. It wouldn't show that it was working on anything. It wouldn't show that it was loading. It would just stop and freeze while it was waiting for that operation to complete. Now, JavaScript or NodeJS rather, is really asynchronous pretty much the whole way through. So what it's going to do here is it's going to go 39, 40, 41, 42. 43 is where we expect it to wait to get the users back, but it never does. It just kind of keeps going, which is why when we console.log users, we got that promise object that was pending. So now that we've added this await keyword in here, I think it's called a keyword. Now that we added this await keyword in here, it should wait. So I'm going to save this. My API is automatically going to restart itself once it detects those changes, and we're going to try this again and see what happens. Okay, let's see. Something else broke, but it did return my user object, so that's good. External tokens. Where else did I console.log this? I logged the token, external tokens.find on, okay. I'm thinking what I might need to do. So it's it's not finding any external tokens that are tied into the user, which I guess is kind of expected because I don't think we've saved it yet. So now we have to step back up this API flow a little bit, and we're going to see where this process breaks down. So in the get user token, we have our request body, we have the request object that gets sent through, Axios sends the request, and this await user controller add external token is what we're expecting to call. And this is inside the user controller is where it would add that token, is where it would save it in here. But I don't know exactly that this is being called. So let's console.log this. Response.data.access token. Based on my testing that I've done previously, that function does seem to work, but we don't know. And if I was doing this the right way, I'll see now I'm seeing I get an error unauthorized. Where did I get an error unauthorized? If I'm doing this the right way, I'd be writing some unit tests or integration tests to make sure this whole process works. But since I'm doing this live on the stream, we're gonna cheat, and this is why we console log everything. So under post auth, is that what was called? Let's bomb out of this and try it again. So I'm going to log out. I'm going to log back in. I know I said earlier I don't like typing passwords on screen, but this is literally password 123 because it's stored locally on my computer. So let's auth to Square again. It's going to request my code, my authorization code, and let's see what it does now. Unhandled promise rejection warning unauthorized. Callback, node, index. I'm just reading through the console errors here to see if I can determine where this problem is. Now I didn't see that it, let's see, I did not see that it returned this here, so let's do console.log response. Let's try response. Just log the whole thing. I'm gonna get rid of these to clear up some information. This process is a little bit boring. There's not a whole lot flashy to show on the screen, but I mean, unfortunately, when it comes to development, this is kind of just the process. I mean, sometimes you just got to trial and error a bunch of things and find out exactly why it's not working. I ran into this issue a couple weeks back when we were, or a couple weeks, I think it was last week when I was trying to build out this authentication piece in the first place. I strongly believe that Square's documentation wasn't as good as it could have been, and it was missing a piece that. Okay, so I did get an access token back, so that's good. It was missing a piece that was required for this to work. This whole piece to work is this grant type. On the surface, it showed the example without the grant type, but it wasn't until I kind of read a little more in depth that said like, hey, if this is required, if the code is required only if the grant type is authorization code, but it doesn't show the other way around. So anyway, I'm kind of picking at that. So okay, I got response. Let's do data. Let's go ahead and get response.data, make sure that returns properly so I know we're getting the right piece here. And I went ahead and updated that and saved it. We're going to go auth to Square again, let it go through its process. And let's see what we get back. Okay, I get the data back properly. And access token. Let's see if we get this back properly. And trying one more time, exactly the same thing. Oh, I did something wrong. What did I do? I put access token on the wrong piece. Let's put this guy up here. And it's decided to not load any further. Let's go back home and try again. All right, so the access token is coming through properly, which is good. So that's good. That means my actual authentication into Square's API is working properly, but something in my code doesn't seem to be working properly. So I'm going to try and check to see what this add external token is doing here. So we're going to go to the user controller. So users controller, and if you are interested in my course that I'm going to be launching, this is kind of a pretty good getting, I guess, example of some of the things we're going to be doing, because this actually is a Node API that I'm working on. Okay, so this is our add external token. I'm going to console.log pretty much everything we've got here. Let's see. So let's console.log our filter. Let's console.log our external token here. External token. And let's lastly console log our update. All right, save this. We're going to run through it again. Okay, it finished loading. All right, so I get, again, I can't really show this. I wish I could, but I'm getting kind of my expected piece back. So I'm getting the ID. This is getting my user ID correctly. My external token, the service is Square as we designated previously, and the token is the token I received back from Square. And it looks like it is created, it added this in here, so something does not seem to be flowing right. I'm guessing right here, user.findOne and update. All right, I'm going to cheat a second, and I'm going to put this new true here. These are the options for the find one and update. So if you add this basically this snippet of code for the options here, once it completes the update, it's going to return it back. So let updated user equals await user.findOne and update, and then I'm going to console.log that and see if that looks correct as well. I want to see if this is actually getting updated in my database. So I've made my changes. I've let the API reload. We're going to try and authorize to Square again. And my response, see, this is where it's interesting. The external tokens is not being added properly. So the question is then, why is it not getting added properly? That looks to be right. My updates looks to be right. Find one and update. This should be correct. It's returning the user. The updates is here. Oh, okay, I see. This is probably where my issue is. So I have external tokens as being capitalized here. Let's go ahead and save that, because in my schema, I'll hop over that and show you my, I guess, schema, model, whatever you want to call it. Under users, I have external tokens as being this camel case here. So the first letter is a lowercase. And in JavaScript, I mean, pretty much most coding languages, it is case sensitive. The only language to knowledge that I've worked on that is not case sensitive, and if you even consider this a development language, is PowerShell. It doesn't care whether it's uppercase, lowercase, it'll work no matter what. So it's pretty cool, but at the same time, it can get a little confusing. So I'm going to get rid of all my console.logs because I don't want all this stuff flowing through my terminal here, so I can see if any errors really do happen. I'm going to get rid of that because I don't actually need to return the user. I don't need that. I don't need that. That was only to test to see if things are working properly. Close out the model. And I guess we could try this again and see what happens. Off to Square. Okay, something's still bombed out. Let's see, invalid, type error, invalid char, invalid character and header authorization. And where did this come through? Client set header authorization. Looks to be spelled properly. don't think I'm going to show off any tokens here if I expand this out. Well, I don't know. I still worry about it. So my error that I'm getting is type error, invalid char, invalid character in header content authorization. But where is that coming from is the question. So we've gotten past our add external token. This seems to be working properly now, I'm guessing. We've gotten all this working properly. I'm guessing it has something to do with this right here, where it's finding it. So I'm gonna console.log this token here, and I'm gonna see if anything comes through here, because it says unhandled promise rejection warning. Now everything in my code should be either try catched, or if it is a promise, there's a catch in the chain, because I don't tend to write code without the catches there. So I'm guessing that's Square's node module that's causing me the problem there. So let's do this again and see what we get back. Let's see. So I get, okay, so it returns the token, but it returns the object as the token. So let's, we're going to change this up and go external token equals user. So what we're doing here again is we're iterating through that array of tokens that's on the user, and we're going to find one where the service equals Square. And then instead of setting this to token, we're going to do external token.token, because my schema or my model for the external token is I have the service and then I have the token. What you don't see in any of these Mongos, unless it's, even if it's whether it is shown in the schema or not, there's always an underscore ID, which is the unique identifier for this particular object that's being stored in the database. So you always have the underscore ID, but then in here we also have the ones that I've defined is service and token. And the token is where we actually store that token. So, all right, so we've updated that. I keep saying that looks to be proper, but we're going to find out right now. Let's go ahead and try again. And another error. Error forbidden. Man, this is not working out too well for me. Let's do console.log auth2.accessToken. We're going to save that. Get Square customers. This is intriguing here. Get Square customers cursor. This sets the token for the entire module, so that should be stored some way, somehow. All right, when we save that, we're going to try this again. I want to see if that's being stored properly. Excuse me. Yeah, it is. But I'm still getting an error forbidden, and I don't know why. So everything seems to be set properly in my API. I'm going to have to flip to the secret scene because I want to test something manually, and I want to see what happens. So sorry, I can't really show some of the stuff on the screen. This is the problem when handling any kind of authentication or whatever on a live stream, is sometimes you actually need to just use things directly to see what's going on, and you can't really show it on the screen. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to fire up Postman, and I'm going to try and use the access token that I received from their API directly against their API to make sure it's not something in their code that might be causing me a potential issue. So I will have something up here in a moment. Authorization, bearer token, Square token. We're going to all right, I can show this. This is cool. This works. I can't zoom in, so it's going to be kind of small here. You know what I'll do is I'm going to go into Sublime, and I'll blow this up a little bit. Almost there. Apologize. Apologize, apologize, apologize. All right, that should be good. So let's transition back to our code here. Now you can see authentication error, insufficient scopes. The merchant has not given your application sufficient permissions to do that. The merchant must authorize your application for the following scopes, customers_read. So I didn't include any scopes because I kind of assumed that I didn't need to initially. So I guess we're going to have to go ahead and add that into our request. So let's fire up the Square developer documentation. And let's look under scope. So as part of the authorize endpoint, it looks like scope, see here, again, optional. It says optional, which I guess technically it kind of is optional, but if you don't put it, it doesn't work. So that's, yeah. Oh, it looks like there are some defaults there. I'm just ranting for no reason then. So we're going to try and put the scope in here and see what happens. Is this part of the, this is part of the get requests in the parameters. Okay, so this is going to be on my UI side. So we're going to do scope, and then we got to do the customers_read. So I'm going to go back into VS Code, and instead of focusing on the API for at least this portion of this, I'm going to go into Square Auth, because I think this is where I have set up my request. Nope, not there. Square service. Here we go. So I don't have, here we go. Here's where I have my deal set up. I'm going to change this and make this look a little more readable. So I'm going to say let's Square URI equals, no, not Square URI. What do I want to do? Let auth URI equals, and then we're going to do this is the backtick that's next to the $1. $ bracket, so we can put our variables in here, and we're going to start off with just that, I think, and we're going to put a question mark, and then we're going to do let, I'm sorry, auth URI plus equals, and then open client underscore ID equals that guy, client ID. So basically I'm just breaking this down so I could see it line by line. So we're going to duplicate that, and we're going to need one more in there. So let's see, we can get rid of that stuff. We're going to have to put it, instead I'm going to move the question mark down here, and I'm going to put an ampersand on the beginning of all these as well. So let's see, ampersand. There's probably a better way I can build out some kind of helper file for this, but for the time being, this is sufficient. So we're copying and pasting our stuff in here. And the last one we need to do is we need to scope. And I'm going to add another variable up here. Const scope. Scope, what do they call it in here? Comma separate for permissions, the application is requesting. Scope is probably a decent enough descriptor there of the variable. So we're going to do customers_read, like so. And if this is comma delimited, then we would just do commas going forward. So scope equals scope. And we're going to set our window location to auth URI. And this is just basic. This is just basic JavaScript that runs inside of the browser. So there's nothing fancy going on here. I'm building out my URL here, and I'm going to go ahead and set the location to that. All right. So that is done. Let's go into here and yet again auth to Square. So now because that is updated, it should send in the new scope, and it's waiting for something. Did it fail again? I don't have any failures. I also don't have any responses. So what's going on here? See the options. Yeah, see, it's easy. Sorry, let's close this out. You can see in here it still says the request is, oh, I broke it now. I broke it now, and I don't know how to get back to that. There's an option here, this guy right here. This request is still pending, so my API is trying to do something, but what it's trying to do, I have no idea. We didn't get an error, so that's progress in the right direction. But we still didn't get our list of customers like we expected to. Okay, so get customers while response.cursor. I wonder if there's something stuck in the loop right here. Let's do console.log customers.length. So I expect the customers that come back, this should be an array, right? So if this is indeed looping, then I should see something in my terminal that this is going to continue to basically climb upwards to infinity, right? Now eventually it will bomb out. You can see here when I restarted the API, it did say failed. So I'm going to do this again and see what happens. Doesn't do anything. Interesting. Okay, I guess we'll do this down here. And we will try yet again. Response equals get square customers. I wonder if something is going on down here. We'll find out. Let's try again. Yeah, see, I don't get anything. So something's getting caught up. Let's see, this works. This works. I'm assuming this works. Response equals response.customers. Return new promise. Am I awaiting that correctly? Does appear that I am. Let's console.log this response. And let's see what's going on here. Okay, so here's the interesting thing. I'm console.logging my access token. So this comes through. I see this on the terminal. Then I call this, and it's almost like something is getting stuck in here. But the question is what? What's getting stuck in here? And this is Square's code, so there's not a whole lot I can really do about this, which is kind of unfortunate. So the problem I ran into when I was originally testing this out is I was considering whether I was going to use Square's SDK for Node, or I guess Node module, or if I was going to try and build something myself just using the endpoints directly. It's almost kind of seeming like right now I might have to go that route and just use it directly. So question mark. All right. I'm going to console.log a couple things down here to see if this is actually getting called, because I suspect that it's somewhere down in here that I'm getting stuck. Let's console log the API. Let's try this again. Okay, so I got stuff there. Stuff is good. I'm going to console.log the error, and I'm also going to console.log data. And see if we get anything back on either one of these. Actually, that's probably a bad idea because I can't see if it's really an error or not. Oh, well, we'll find out. No, if it throws an error, we'll see an error. So if it's an error, what if there's no error and no data? Well, no, it still should resolve, but it'll resolve an empty object. All right, try again. Yeah, see, it's almost like it's getting hung up here, because I don't get, when I issue this, I don't get an error, and I don't get any data. So yeah, I think I'm back to my original predicament where I'm looking at potentially building out my own kind of files and models and whatnot to communicate with them directly. Let's try this one more time before we go that route. To be entirely honest, I don't think it's that big of a deal because I've done this before with my other application that I've used. Yeah, see, it doesn't do anything. It's like getting stuck here, and I don't know. This almost feels like I'm missing something silly, but I don't. I'm not entirely sure. Throw an await in there. I don't think that's going to do me any good. I mean, this worked earlier when I was calling it directly. That's kind of what I'm confused about right now. Is this did seem to work before. I'm going to try one more thing. I got to go back to my secret scene. I'm going to try and use the latest code that I got, and I'm going to try and hit the API using Postman again. I just got to do this for 1 second, and then I can pull this back on screen. All right, so I've updated in my configuration or my environment. I updated in my environment the token that was being sent, that's being stored. So let's go ahead and send this again. And yeah, see, here's the interesting thing. Like I'm getting data back when I use Postman in this way. So something in their code seems to be kind of holding me up. The question is what? If error, reject error. I'm going to try this guy right here. We're going to get rid of the options. I wonder if it's not like in my options there. I had tested this, and this did work before. It doesn't care. It just doesn't do anything. Okay, well, I'm probably not going to mess around with this anymore, at least as far as using their setup. So what we're going to do is we're going to just kind of build this out ourselves. So if I go back into the Square Connect API, let's go to Connect. Let's go to Customers, and let's take a look and see what exactly their setup looks like. So I want to list customers. It looks like get v2 customers is what we're looking for. Query parameters, I see required permissions. I have the cursor, sort field I don't need, so really all I need is the cursor. All right, so let's kill all this stuff. I'm going to leave the options in there. I don't need to do this promise actually either, since Axios supports async await. So we'll do let URI equals. Do I have Square base defined? Square API base. Yeah, we'll copy this guy down here because that's the URI we're going to use. We're going to copy down all this. We're actually going to get all this garbage right here. Garbage. I say garbage. It's my own damn code. I shouldn't call it garbage. So we'll copy all that down. Since this is a GET request, we don't need a body. We're going to change this to GET. We will need to update this so this way the token can be passed through. We're going to need to, if the cursor is passed through, we're going to, no, hold on a second. We're going to do this up here. If cursor URI plus equals, and then we'll do backtick question mark cursor equals cursor. So if, as I explained in my last stream where I had done this, the cursor is basically the page that's translated on Square's backend, so it knows if you have more than, it only returns 100 customers at a time. So if you have more than 100 customers in your database, it will return a cursor basically saying, I have passed along the customers up to this many. Here's where the next set starts. So it's like kind of page 2, but it's just a long string. It's not really page 2, which I guess, okay. Could be my newness to this. I don't know, I'm not entirely sure I understand the reasoning behind doing it that way, but I'm not going to question Square's design decision. So that is going to update our URI. We're going to need to add authorization in here. Authorization, and I think this is bearer token, so we're going to backtick bearer token. That's going to be passed through. There, we don't have a body, we have a request, and then we will do return await Axios request. And I don't need any of this stuff. And that's an async. Why are you complaining? Redundant reuse of await on a return value. What's not? It doesn't want the await there? Really? Response equals all right, I like that better anyway. So the response, instead of that, we will instead do customers, and we will return response.data.customers. Actually, no, we're gonna have to return data, so this will have to be response. Okay, console log response, it's going to add the customers in there. If the response has a cursor, it's going to do all that stuff. Response equals this, and then it's add, and it's going to keep iterating basically over that. Yeah, I think we should be in good shape now. Quite frankly, I like this better than using Square's code anyway, because they're accessing their API is not exactly complicated, and adding additional layers of complexity inside of code is never a good thing. You need as much complexity as you need and kind of no more. All right, so magic number 5,723. Internal server error, request failed, status 401, get. Still not liking something. Authorization to get requests. Let's console log our URI. Perhaps I have something done incorrectly here. Look at this again. That's just the cursor. V2 customers. V2 customers. Connect.squareup.com. That should be good. Minimize that. I don't need that. And let's try again. I did not think this was, I thought I was farther along than this. I did not think this was going to take me an entire hour just to get this component working. But the nice thing is once it works, I don't have to come back and mess with it again. Let's see. Connect squareup.com, V2 customers. I'm still getting a 401. In my here, Postman, connect.squareup.com, V2 customers. There's the get. There's the URI. Is authorization spelled properly? I don't know. I had a really hard time spelling authorization last time we were doing this, to the point where it caused me all sorts of pain. So I'm going to copy and paste from another spot. That looks to be set proper. Oh, I know why. Hold on. We updated this to pass along a token, and we didn't bother updating it to, we didn't actually pass the token. So cleaning up things a little bit up here, I can get rid of that. And because we don't need to use that, I don't need to use this. I actually don't think I even need to use any of the Square stuff. We'll eliminate that completely. All right, so external token, what we're going to do instead is we're going to do external token dot token. And then same thing here. If I do external token dot token, because we updated our, remind you, we updated our function to include the token because we want to actually, we're just going to pass that along in with the Axios request here. Okay, again. It's thinking. got a thing, it's got to iterate a couple of times, which is kind of to be expected. And okay, we have made progress. If I come down and I look at, oh man, how do I sort by time again? Clear this out. I'm gonna close this out. I'm gonna show this again. It takes a little while for it to load. So in instances like this, I haven't done it yet, but I will eventually add kind of a loading dialog so the user knows that it's not just kind of sitting there doing nothing. But I'm probably going to end up doing that next time I host a stream for NVRE. Let's go ahead and refresh this. Okay, so it's thinking. It's getting all the data on the back end. The first request seems to take the longest. The subsequent requests, I'm guessing because Square's CDN or front-end cache is probably kind of prepped and ready to go. But my request for customers, that was my options request. Here is actually my results. So you can see I got my 500 customers back. We are making good progress. This is a UI error. All these errors you're seeing down here is just because I didn't program this data table component properly. But that's not a big deal. We can fix that pretty quickly, actually. So let's go. 1 second here. Excuse me. Let's go into our UI and go to customers, Square. I'm betting my customers object is probably equals await get customers. It's probably results. So I got to do load customer. I'm going to do let response equals that, and then customers equals response dot results. I think is my normal convention that I've used. Customers is not defined. Oh, I know why. Inside the component, I got to specify this. It's making the request on the back end. Moment of truth. Come on. First name of, cannot read first name of null. What am I missing? I got results. Let's take a look at our first ID in here. All right, so I'm gonna have to do some kind of mapping in here to get it to map into one of our customers. Well, I don't need to initially. So yeah, first name, cannot read properly first name of null. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy off this particular, let's see, can I copy just the value? Can I view this as not, can I just look at this raw? Because that would be ideally what I want to do. Response, here we go. Here's what I want. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new Sublime page here. We're going to convert this to JSON, and we're going to do JSON. Got to re-indent this. It's going to take a while. It's kind of a lot of stuff going on here, but there we go. Here's what I want. So this will give me an idea of like kind of what I need to update my data table to look at. And really, all I'm kind of interested in, I guess, is the given name and the family name, first name, last name. So I can display some kind of data in this table. Let's go back into our code and see I got name. See, I got name, email, and address. I don't care about that. I don't care about that. I'm just clearing some stuff out here, so I'm not putting too much here. Edit customer props.item. Let's see, so customers should be set properly here now. So we're going to change this to given name, and we're going to change this to family name. And I'm going to comment that out. no code. Hold on. Let's do, I don't really want to see any of this. I'm just going to delete this because I really don't care. Do I have edit customer down here? No, I don't have edit customer. I'm going to get rid of this click here because I'm going to make a bet that that's going to cause me some headache. And we got it selected. We have our headers. I'm going to get rid of all that stuff down there. I mean, we're going to rebuild this thing anyway, I think, next time. I just want to see if I can get some data back. Rows per page, we'll do 100. We'll do 100. Save that, and let's see what we got. I'm going to clear all this out so I don't have any bad data in there. Let this guy refresh. Cannot read property given name of null. So what's null? Console.log a response. I want to see what my response looks like. This might be response.data.results. It should spit all that data back out here. No, it should be response.results. Response.results, and then in each one of these guys I have that. Okay, what am I? I'm missing something else? What am I missing? Load square customers, this.customers, which is here, and that's referenced up here. I'm going to get rid of my selected column because I frankly don't care about that right now. I mean, basically all I want is let's look at another one of these tables. Maybe I have the table programmed incorrectly. Customers. I'm looking at my customers main view, and I just want to look at the table. I got to get through all my dialogues. So here I have customers, props, items, props.item. Get rid of that. I don't need that. I don't need that. This.customers equals response.results. Console.log this.customers. Get rid of that. I don't want that there anymore. Props.item.given name, props.item.family name, right? Given name and family name. Yeah, see, here's my particular array. Customers is set properly. Be honest, I'm not sure what's going on here. Because if I go to customers, this loads properly. And this is kind of got the exact same setup, right? So customers is an array of objects, and it's props.items. You know, whatever that item, whatever that attribute in the object is, and that's exactly what this is set up here. Cannot read property given name of null. I wonder if one of them is null, and it's giving me a problem. $500 is null. Why is 500 null? I wonder if there's a quick way that I can clear out any null values in an array with JavaScript. Let's see here. From array. Moving Empty elements for an array in JavaScript. Looks like I can use a filtered here. Well, no, that looks like something they have prototypes. Hold on, questions almost asked 90 years built in. Now I certainly would recommend you use filter. Okay, so this is current. So I can have, let's copy this. I know for a fact 1 is null, so we're gonna do, we'll paste that guy in there. And what this is basically doing, I've seen a lot of this code before. The problem is I haven't memorized a lot of it. If anyone is looking for a really good book on trying to learn very nitty-gritty things with JavaScript, JavaScript Recipes was pretty awesome. It gave me a lot of exposure to a lot of things that I didn't know were possible, but that doesn't mean I've memorized them. And as I said before, I don't really memorize code in general, just because there's a lot to it, and Google's really powerful, and you're gonna come up with different snippets and things that you've used already, which can definitely help you, can help you copy and paste stuff like this. Like, you don't need to memorize everything. It definitely helps in building something from the ground up, but really you should focus on your mindset in attacking specific issues. So let's try this now. So I have this dot customers, and I want to do this dot customers equals response results filter. So response.results is my array of customers. We're going to filter it down, and we're going to return if the item is not equal null. We know one of these is null, so, and I'm kind of cheating here. I really should get this cleaned up in the back end and the up in the API, but I really kind of want to get something on the screen today. And there we go. Got it. Apologize for the clap. That was probably really loud. So yeah, cool. We got customers from Square. Pretty happy about that. It's kind of cobbled together, not gonna lie, and I don't like the fact that I'm displaying 100 items on this one page. Actually, it's got to be 500 items because it's showing every single item. But yeah, that's cool. We're an hour in so far, where I'm right on time where I want to be. This took literally 3 of these sessions, so 3 hours to build this and put together. Now, mind you, I've stopped and kind of chatted here and there, so that adds a little bit of delay, but really not a whole lot. But again, as I explained earlier, the nice thing is once this code is built, it doesn't need to be built again. It can be moved and tested and whatnot, but it's done. It's there. So I think with that, I'm going to go ahead and sign out for the night. So I appreciate everyone who joined to watch. Thank you. If you are interested in supporting me, check out my Patreon. You can access it on my Twitch channel. Hey, see ya. I'm not sure how long you've been watching, but hope you enjoyed. John NE5S. Appreciate you hopping on. So 45 minutes. Wow, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Hopefully you pick something away from it. But anyway, yeah, check out the Patreon. Still tweaking out some of the different subscription levels. I'm still working on some of this stuff, but if you are interested in learning anything, pitch me a message or do me a favor, give me a follow on Twitch. I'm trying to reach affiliate, to be honest. So if so follows is kind of what I'm really after right now. That would be fantastic. That'd be awesome. So, but that's it. Everybody have a good night. I will actually be on tomorrow around 8:30-ish. I might be a little bit late because I got to run an HDMI cable, but I'm gonna hop on and play some Destiny and do something a little bit different. So if you're interested, join then. That'll be just on Twitch. I'm not gonna broadcast that to Facebook or YouTube. So thanks, John. Saw the follow. Really appreciate it. But everybody have a good evening. Bye bye.